Good evening. We're back for the late edition of the Meteorology Lab, and we had a bit of a penumbral eclipse. Wasn't all that spectacular, really, but this is about as good as I got. You can see the dark edge off to the top left, and we also had a bit of a conjunction here, Mars and Venus, out to the southwest, so you want to maybe check that out. And I finally got some viewer video from Mark St. Dennis here out in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Looking at a snowstorm yesterday. I didn't get I didn't check my email till today, but this is what we had. So we had kind of a snowstorm departing that area, 13 inches there at Portsmouth, and visibilities I saw on the METARs were down to 1/8 of a mile. So it's kind of amazing that that's going on up there, and you see the temperatures up in Maine about 9 degrees, 7. And we scroll down to the southwest and look what we have in the Great Plains. 93 there at Canadian, Texas. 93 at Guyman, Oklahoma. And even 87 at Goodland. And we just came out of January 10 days ago. So this is some very crazy weather we got going on. The northward extent of that is 77 there at Grand Island. And it looks like even a little bit of that is making it up to North Dakota, where we have one viewer there. Also in the desert southwest, also pretty warm there, 80s, settling in across Arizona. And here we saw only about 74 where I am today. So one reason for the hot weather is ridging. Or we should say that the ridging is a consequence of the warm air mass. And when we talk about ridging, we're talking about this right here. Also the very strong zonal flow that allows a lot of downslope just east of the lee side of the Rockies, and also trajectories coming well from the southwestern U.S. Elsewhere in the U.S., though, we've got troughing off the west coast there, so probably a bit of a frontal system coming inland. If we use that rule of thumb for finding fronts, first thing we do is find the jet. So that's going to be right there. And it's kind of a broad jet, but maybe we'll go something like that. And then we find the fronts, which are going to be about halfway between the trough and the ridge downstream. So we're going to look for a front kind of in this area here. So probably a front coming through Southern California. Let me get the surface data started. And let me know if you hear anything weird going on with the sound. I hear a little bit of resonance in the background, and I don't know where that's coming from. Might just be a bit of a speaker leaking through or something like that, but hopefully everything sounds fine to you there. Let me take a look at the chat real quick. Got kind of a light crowd tonight because we started pretty late and it is Saturday. But we've got Andrew and we got Michael and Jason. Mark Davis is here, saw the moon. Kevin McKinney is here. Jason Boggs said almost 80 degrees there at Pampa, ready for spring. Yeah. Fred is checking in. And Andrew says we didn't even make 50 in Peoria. I got Andrew here, Kevin, and Michael. Okay, very good. So let's take a look at the surface data we have right now. Things have cooled down a little bit in the Great Plains, down to 50, 63. And the temperature's fallen off there because the air mass is very dry. It's radiating out very efficiently. But let's look at the west coast there. We know we've got a lot of weather coming down from that way. And there we go. We can see rain in the southern San Joaquin Valley out towards the Santa Barbara, Vandenberg area, kind of in this area. Also the LA area reporting some rain. And you can see the northwesterly component to the winds right through here, all the way from Tonopah out to Fresno, Sacramento, San Francisco, and the Central Coast area right there. So that's going to be indicative of a cold front working southeastward, maybe something like that. So that right there correlates pretty well to what we see on the upper level data. Southwesterly winds at Las Vegas, that's a good indicator of tropical air. Normally, when the winds turn around in Vegas, they're either going to be northwesterly or northeasterly, one of the two. We can see quite a bit of tropical air making it up into Utah there. So we're going to place the front pretty much right through there. Elsewhere in the Central Plains, it looks like we have an active dry line. Got the 60s moisture flowing up northward. Even some 70s probably indicated right along the coast. And then 30s and 40s out in the Panhandle. So let's see where that dry line would be. It's not very well defined, but I would probably go something like that, and I like keeping it pretty far to the east, because you're certainly not going to develop much in the way of severe thunderstorms with a 49-degree dew point. So it's actually better to err to the east a little bit. Okay, elsewhere in the U.S., looking at the southeastern U.S., fairly cool. Looks like the warm front is probably somewhere in this area right here. So cool conditions through here. And you see the dew points are a lot different. 36, 37, contrasting sharply with 64 in East Texas. So if I can remember, we'll take a look and find out why we don't have severe weather in this area. Because this time of year, the warm front is a favorite area for severe weather. Things pretty quiet in the Midwest, just the tropical air starting to return, or I should say the polar air starting to clear out there. And up to the north, looks like we have a bit of a weak Alberta clipper moving through. You can see a little bit of cyclonic circulation right in this area over Lake Superior, and cold air coming down south in the wake of that. Water vapor imagery looking out on the west coast. You can see the Pineapple Express flowing northeastward into Arizona and southern California, pretty much clearing northern California at this time. So jet stream is going to be looking like that right there. And so we're going to see a lot of the rain shifting to the LA area tomorrow. I think we were looking at the LA area, seeing a cutoff low moving through that region. And that'll shift into the Rockies over the weekend. So looking at the thermal analysis, you can see the very strong difference here in temperature between Quebec and Texas. So we're going to go with the warm front kind of in this area here. Carry that over through Colorado, and then down through California, something like that. So maybe a little bit further north based on what we saw in the surface data. And let's look at those soundings and find out what the column looks like over Fort Worth and points east. Got a bit of a loaded gun. And you can see that the moisture return at Fort Worth is not that impressive. Sure, we have 54 at the surface, but that trails off to 52, 51 if we mix that all the way down. So if we lift this based on current conditions, you can see there's just phenomenal convective inhibition. If we try to warm it up to 90, You can see even with 90 degrees, we are not going to clear that cap. That's unbreakable. So really our convective temperature is on the order of about 102 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's probably the first time this season you've seen me construct a convective temperature. And not too many forecasters use that, but I like to do that just for a rough ballpark figure, just to get an idea what's going on in the air mass. Pretty easy to construct. You take the mixed lowest 100 to 150 millibars and lift that up to the temperature trace. And I like to maybe take it a little bit further to the left instead of starting it right on the line, and carry that all the way down to the surface. So that gives us about 103 Fahrenheit. So as a proxy for this very strong cap, you can use the 700 millibar temperature. And we can see the 700 millibar temperature at Fort Worth is about 11 to 12. So all we have to do is look for readings of about 8 to 10 or higher at 700 to show you who is capped. And maybe I'll do that after I do this chart here. So let's take a quick look at the dynamics. Not really any strong short waves moving through the flow except for right there in that trough. Maybe a weak short wave through North Texas. Not enough to destabilize and remove the cap in this area. So that's what we get when we're under the big ridge. Going forward into the weekend, ridge starts breaking down. You can see a pretty good trough moving through the Dakotas, and here comes our cutoff low in the LA area. So I know Ron lives down there. He may see some interesting weather there tomorrow. And then for Sunday, we're going to see that cutoff low moving through the Tucson area towards El Paso. We may be looking at a chance of severe weather in the El Paso area. Maybe not. It depends on how much moisture we have available back in this area. And I'm not really too sure. But this would be good. This would be a good pattern for thunderstorms in the El Paso area. So we're talking about Sunday into Monday. Then we see the trough moving into Texas on Tuesday and Wednesday, so we should see rain chances pick up here. Large low goes through the Great Lakes area around midweek. And then we see all the trough action clear out, and then the ridge builds in for late in the week. So for that chaser con, we should see things looking pretty fair. New Pacific system comes inland. And we see the jet right in this area here. Jet max coming onto the Northern California coast on Thursday. And that comes inland on Friday. So we should see more rain and bad weather along the California coast. Really breaking that drought pattern there. And then across the Rockies, and looks like the first bit of that energy makes it in on Sunday and Monday. Then we see another ridge building in for the 22nd, and kind of a meridional pattern here. A couple of troughs moving through the flow. And meanwhile, off the southeast coast, pretty good trough down there late in that period. Okay, let's take a look at the 700 millibar temperatures. And I think for this one, we're going to have to go to this RH and vertical velocity product. Yeah, so here we can see in red the temperatures. And this can kind of show you if your cap is getting removed. So here you see the 9 line right here. That's very strong capping. And we see the capping is a little bit weaker as you go to the northeast and to the north. So what's the trend over that over the next 24 hours? Looks like it starts weakening going into tomorrow, and you see the 9 line pull to the south. And that's due to the approach of this trough coming in from the west. And we're seeing this area destabilize. And the columns are lifting in this area, getting adiabatic cooling, and that's cooling the mid and upper levels there. Okay, so I think we're about ready to head into the forecast here. Get the GFS set up and take one last look at the chat. See, we've had some more people who join this evening. Lizards Layer 1. Looks like a new name there. -4 in New Hampshire. Sarah Wood checking in with 39 in northern Indiana. And Tree Nelson is here. 59 in Termopolis, Wyoming. And still 61 in the Panhandle. All right. Okay, let's see here. We've got a request to also show New Hampshire, so I'll try to work that in. Got a lot of ground to cover, but we start out with a Pacific system moving inland, affecting the central California coast right there. Here comes a bit of an Alberta clipper coming through the Great Lakes area. Looks like the main front is well to the south. Probably even place it all the way down here. So this is mostly kind of an occluded system. But we see a lot of warm air advection working up towards the New England area in upstate New York. This is all warm air advection. So for tomorrow's webcast, we'll run this forward. This is tomorrow's webcast, and we see the 540 line working its way up to New York, but it looks like the warm air advection stops at that point. And why is that? Looks like we've just lost the pressure gradient. So we had the pressure gradient in place earlier in the day, and that pretty much dissolved right there. But we still got a bit of a weak warm front maybe in this area. Actually, maybe I would put that a little further south. Main frontal system is going to be in the plains here on Saturday. And looks like it's going to be transiting the Arizona area. You can see the cold core low working through the LA area right here. We're approaching the Vandenberg area. LA is right there. And they'll get that towards the evening. Then for Sunday, we see cold air building into Texas. So that'll be a big change. So one day of warm weather for Texas, and then we'll see a cool down. Looks like that Alberta clipper kind of turns into a winter storm out in the East Coast. So we see that coming together right there. The main baroclinics area is well to the south, way down here. And then right here we have a occluded system. Strong cold air advection working back in behind that through Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Cincinnati. High pressure moving into the Great Plains. And we start to see a little bit of isentropic lift developing in New Mexico. See a little bit of freezing rain break out there for Monday. Kind of a wet day there. Lots of cold air advection in New England on Monday. So cold air comes back, and there's the thickness trough. So it looks like more blustery conditions there in New Hampshire. For Tuesday, looks like East Texas gets the rain, kind of a slow-moving system working through that area right there, warm front along the Louisiana coast. And here's that backdoor front moving into the Midwest. So that'll eventually be working towards Kansas and Arkansas. For Wednesday, backdoor front moves towards Kansas and Arkansas. There's our Gulf Coast system right there, continued cold air advection in the northeast, and moderating conditions out in the Rockies. So it looks pretty good for the ChaserCon weekend on Friday. Anybody driving out that way? Looks to be pretty fair and cold out east over the weekend. Little upper level system coming through Colorado on Sunday. And we can see a little bit of Gulf return flow starting to get set up here on Sunday. You can see the trajectories are mostly from the northern Gulf. But we start getting a little bit of deeper moisture towards Monday. And then let's see here, new front coming through on Tuesday, the 21st. So we see those strong pressure gradients pull into the southeast U.S. right there. Things look pretty quiet in the Rockies, and then next Pacific system comes through the Rockies on the 23rd here, according to the GFS. Wow, look at that. Looks like we got ourselves a bomb on the East Coast. But this is 312 hours out there, so a lot could happen between now and then. Yeah, let's backtrack that, see where that came from. That came from that little weak low right here. Well, I don't really have any other charts to look at for that time frame, so we'll just have to check it out tomorrow and see if there's any changes on that chart and see what happens. But it looks like kind of a warm system. You can see the bulk of the, snow line way up in upstate New York and into the Pittsburgh area right there. But I think we can expect to see that change when we take a look at that tomorrow. Okay, 10:22 here, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Hope you all have a good evening, and appreciate you joining. And remember, send in some video if you like, and I'll try to air that for you. Just make sure you give me permission and let me know who took it and where it's of, and I'll try to work that into the program. Anyway, we will see you tomorrow. Thanks.